Hey guys, how's it going? In this video, it's going to be a little unique. It's all going to be some pretty fun announcements for you guys, as well as the burning questions you guys have all been wanting to know. So we'll do an announcement section first and some information, and then we'll move on to the FAQ section. So if this is not of interest to you, well, this video is probably going to bore you. But if this is something that's going to interest you, then stick around. So looking at my notes here, the first thing I wanted to cover, I have several announcements here, is I have a pretty big project underway. And it's not just one project. Hopefully it's going to be multiple. It's still in the works right now, so I can't give away too much information, but it's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to say that right now. And hopefully it will see the light of day here in a couple of months. But the only thing I'm going to say about this is that I am going to be a cop. Yeah, so make of that what you will. So again, I want to keep that kind of under wraps. So I'll let you guys guess what that's going to be. The second announcement I have is for all of you guys, which I've seen multiple of you, that absolutely detest the new format, which is like what I do now, and you really want the old school What Lurks Beneath back, you know, the narration of stories. Well, I got good news for you, because that is about to become a reality yet again. So many of you have also made comments about this other channel called Secrets of the Woods, supposedly stealing my content and my voice. Well, I'm here to make the official announcement that yes, that is my channel. It has always been my channel. There's no stolen content. It is me 100%. And to kind of give you guys a little bit of insider information on that, back in February, I think, or March when I started it, I wanted to see if I can grow a narration channel completely from scratch, not using the clout or audience I have that I built from this channel at all, completely separate. And over time, it just kind of became a thing of its own, and it grew. And unfortunately, fortunately, a lot of people recognized my voice, but it kind of backfired because tons of people were slandering it, and you know, they were convinced that I was actually stealing my own content, or this channel was stealing my own content. Anyway, yes, it is me, all is good. So if you guys do miss all those old school narrations of things that I used to do way back when, that channel is definitely going to suit your needs. I'm going to try and post on there as much as I can. The last month I've been a little busier than normal, but fortunately I now have more availability than I did, so you should start seeing more episodes appear on that. And another very big special thing I have is that the channel What Lurks Above is making a comeback. Now, if you're new to this, you may have no idea what this channel is. So back when I did What Lurks Beneath, which was just narration, I started 2 extra channels, which is What Lurks Between and What Lurks Above. And these were channels that were actually designed to be compilation channels. It was me being able to take all my content from What Lurks Beneath and put it into like a 1-2 hour format episode so you can go and watch it. It was ultimately designed so that way, if you just wanted short 20-30 minute episodes, What Lurks Beneath was the place. But if you wanted to watch, 1 hour to 2 hour long videos and just, watch them in compilation format, then that was the channel to go to. Unfortunately, a couple years ago, YouTube actually demonetized What Lurks Above because they were convinced I was stealing my own content. In fact, the reason they demonetized their channel was because they said I was reusing content. Even though the content that I was reusing was my own, it didn't matter to them. They slapped the channel, it was done. So I kind of just let it sit for a while, and then not too long after, I deleted all the content, and it's just been sitting there kind of just in the garage waiting to be used. And so I've been really thinking about like, man, what can I do with it? What can I do with it? And yeah, I think I would kind of like to pull it back out of the garage and revive it again and kind of give you guys all what you missed, which was like the 1-2 hour long compilations of like strange supernatural stuff and cryptids like it originally was. So that will also be coming back sometime here in the next month. So you can go ahead and subscribe to that down below if that is of interest to you. And speaking of channel revivals, I will be deleting the channel What Lurks on Camera, which I started back in November. It was a concept and idea that I played around with a little bit. I think I did about maybe 4 or 5 videos. It was basically just me giving commentary on like scary videos and stuff like that. The issue that I had with it is just that there's too much room for error and like copyright problems. And so I was like, you know what? It was fun, but I'd rather move to other things. So that's dead and gone. However, the channel Unearthing Stories is going to be finally making a resurgence. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is or have never heard that before, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of backstory, right? So initially I did What Lurks Beneath, right? It was all horror narration. And then I wanted to really move over and try this new format, right? Which is storytelling on camera and actually have like visuals of like real life cases and things. And I was like, Unearthing Stories, I'm going to do it. And so I started doing it. and it had some success, but I was like, you know what? I'm not really happy with the execution of it. I feel like I wanted to kind of wait till I had a better understanding and idea of what I really wanted to do with it, because it was kind of up in the air. And so I was like, I'm going to hold off on this. And I had sprinkled some videos in here and there. Like I did a few shorts and I, did videos from time to time, but I just wasn't overall happy with the direction I wanted to go with it. And I really wanted there to be a distinction between What Lurks Beneath and that channel. So eventually, funny enough, What Lurks Beneath is now what Unearthing Stories was meant to be, which is storytelling on camera and telling people's accounts and stories and like weird historical stuff. And so once What Lurks Beneath really took off in this format that you see now, I kind of really didn't have a reason to do Unearthing Stories. And so it's just kind of sat vacant until probably not too long ago, where I'm like, you know what? This channel is all focused on, things that are more supernatural, things that are more paranormal, mystery, but definitely heavily geared towards like cryptids and supernatural. Whereas I want Unearthing Stories to be a lot more just like Unsolved Mysteries, true crime. I really want there to be a heavy distinction. I mean, of course, there might be, a slight overlap, because like that channel, for example, like I'd mentioned Unsolved Mysteries. So think, for example, like the case of Alyssa Lamb, right? Like missing person stuff, the Malaysia flight that went missing, maybe some true crime cases. It's all just like strictly real things that happen to real people. There's no supernatural, there's no paranormal. It's pretty much just going to be missing persons, true crime stuff, Unsolved Mysteries. That is where it's going to live under that umbrella. So again, if that interests you, I would heavily check that out, because that will also be coming out very soon. And it's going to be in a very similar format to what you've seen in my recent videos, where it's me showing you stuff on camera, yada, yada, yada. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually thinking about rebranding it. I don't know if I really want to use the name Unearthing Stories anymore. I might change it to something else, but I'm going to keep that channel. So if you guys want to go ahead and subscribe to that down below, I will put the link. So that is going to be some pretty cool stuff coming out on there. And of course, the next announcement I have is my book that you guys have all seen, you guys have heard about. I've actually done a terrible job at promoting this, because I honestly just forget about it. But this is a book that I released back in October, November, and it is called The Big Book of Monsters, Volume 1. And honestly, it's just full of, I want to say there's like 150 eyewitness accounts. Everything from Bigfoot to Dogman to alien to UFO to reptilian. Oh, it tells you actually right here. Here in the table of contents, we have alien, Bigfoot, chupacabra, creature, Dogman, flying humanoids, goatmen, reptilian, sea lake encounters, skinwalker, thunderbird, and wendigo. So, yep, lots of, it's got about, how many pages is this? 300 and almost 350 pages of juicy goodness. So, again, all eyewitness testimony. Pretty cool stuff. If you guys like that, you can go ahead and pick that up on Amazon, on Kindle, or paperback like this. And the next thing I wanted to talk about, I guess you can call it an announcement, but the shirts that you guys have been asking about. So about a month or so ago, I released an image of a shirt that was a prototype. Well, I have 4 more prototypes to show you guys right now. So here you go, guys. These are 4 working prototypes, and the designs, these are not live yet. These are not ready to purchase. So just a few quick notes. These are pretty close to what the finals are going to look like. So the first thing to note is obviously, like, the rough edges around all these images were just really quickly done. So I'm going to go back and kind of refine it to look a little cleaner, especially this one. They're just done to showcase the working prototype. Some of the colors might change a little bit in the actual font and design. This one's probably pretty close to the finalized version, but this one might change a little bit. Same with this one, same with this one. This is kind of what we're looking at right now. The only thing stopping me from releasing this again is just kind of cleaning it up a little bit more with the images, and also creating the domain to actually sell the merchandise on and designing that. So that should hopefully be coming within the next month or so. But again, this is just kind of getting you guys an idea of what to expect. I will probably release more merchandise and shirts in the future, but right now this is kind of where it stands. So we got the old Dogman werewolf thing going on over here. I love the colors of this one, the blue and red. It's very 80s, very American Werewolf in London, the Howling, Silver Bullet, very much, 1980s werewolf stuff. This is kind of like a Wendigo in the frozen woods. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I love the blue and white. Very cool. Obviously Sasquatch, and then we got the whole sea monster thing going on with Cthulhu. So if you guys are into that, well, get excited because these will be coming out. And for the final announcement today, before we get into the FAQ, I'm going to be live at the Dogman conference. I believe it's held in Houston or Dallas. I have to double check that. But you can actually see from last year's, let me pull, here we go. We got Tony Merkel, we got Josh from Paranormal Roundtable. We got Barton Nunnally. A lot of cool cats are going to be at this event. A lot of paranormal researchers and authors. I am more than humbled to be among them. I am just an entertainer and storyteller. These guys are the OGs. They are the true researchers. They're going out on the field. They're looking for this stuff. They're making contacts with people. They're doing all the groundwork. So kudos to these guys. And yeah, if you want to come hang out and see me and see all these other guys, then you should definitely consider coming. And if that's of interest to you, you guys can check out the link pinned below, which has the place where you can get tickets to that. Now, before we get into the FAQ section, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the future of what lurks beneath. What does that look like? What can we expect? So a couple things. The first is that I would definitely like to try and stick to 2-3 episodes a week like I've been doing. Obviously, if it's at the cost of quality, I'm not going to, which I'm sure you all understand. But if I can kind of try and stick to 2 and 3 a week, I will definitely do that. You're going to see a lot of the same stuff, right? I really enjoy the format of telling third-person stories as well as first-person stories on screen. You're going to see also some more missing person stuff, some weird stories and cases from not only like in the United States, but also around the world. Just a lot of the same stuff we've already been seeing, but just more of that. As far as how long I'm going to be doing What Lurks Beneath for, it really depends. I'm not really sure what the future holds. Obviously, with the big project that I announced, that's going to be really cool. That's going to really blow you guys away, I hope. But I definitely want to do more with unearthing stories, and a big part of that is because the issue that I have with What Lurks Beneath is that to the majority of people who come across my channel, I get a lot of crap, by the way, you guys. I get a lot of crap. And the reason why is because you're covering topics that the majority of people consider pseudoscience, bullcrap, lies. It's very unfortunate, but it is what it is. And it would just be nice to be able to have a channel to also focus on that is not ridiculed, is not attacked, just because of the topic choice. It is definitely a hard niche to grow in. It's definitely a hard niche to, entertain in, but it is what it is. And I still enjoy doing it, but I definitely am looking forward to doing a channel like Unearthing Stories where I can focus on just like true legitimate cases, like true crime stuff, missing person stuff. And so the goal is to be doing them simultaneously. I don't want you guys to think by saying this stuff that I'm just going to totally abandon What Lurks Beneath. Like I said, I still want to keep 2 to 3 episodes a week. Ideally, in a perfect world, I could do 2 to 3 episodes of Unearthing Stories a week as well. So that way you guys get True Crime Josh. My name's Josh, by the way, in case you didn't know. True Crime Josh, and then What Lurks Beneath Josh, because I really enjoy both, which this actually kind of segues us into the FAQ section, right? Because people have asked me, how come you don't do true crime? How come you don't do Unsolved Mysteries? And I have a huge interest in that stuff. I love true crime, but it's just, I've always had more of an interest in, like the supernatural and things, and so it naturally evolved into doing What Lurks Beneath, and it is what it is now. And so What Lurks Beneath takes up a lot of my time. So I just really haven't had enough of time set aside to fully work on the idea and flesh that out of what I want Unearthing Stories to be. But now that enough time has passed, I feel like I'm at that point. So as far as the topic umbrella that What Lurks Beneath covers, probably the hardest thing I have to deal with is negative comments that specifically target the topic of the content that I'm doing. Now, let me just make one thing clear, that as a content creator, everybody gets negative comments, right? Personal attacks, that doesn't really bother me too much. It's more so when people come and attack the topic, and I understand, being from the outside, I get it, because you're dealing with a lot of people who are skeptical into the idea, and the idea for a lot of these people that, the supernatural is a joke, it doesn't exist, I have no credibility, yada, yada, yada. That sucks, man. That's hard to deal with, and because I even cover the topics I do, a lot of people think I'm a liar, they don't trust me, it just is what it is. So that definitely does make it hard to keep doing content sometimes, because it's like, man, how do I present this information in a way that's neutral? Like I try to do, because I can project my thoughts and opinions on this stuff all day and night, but I really find a lot of enjoyment just presenting the information, saying, hey, here's what the story is. You guys have to determine what it is. And because of that, apparently I'm an advocate for it. And, I could just go on, which I'm not going to. But it definitely sucks. It really sucks. So I feel like Unearthing Stories will be a great outlet to get other true legitimate cases, things that are documented, things that aren't considered pseudoscience by the public actually out. And if I want to cover missing persons cases, they'll actually be taken legitimately and seriously, instead of people blowing me off because, there was possibly a Bigfoot story attached to it or something along those lines in that video. So with all that said, let's go ahead and finally jump into the FAQ. All right, so our first question of the day comes from Obliviate, and it says, I'd love to know more about you. Like, are you married and do you have any kids or pets? What kind of music do you like to play on your guitars? Do you have any other talents, hobbies, or special interests? What jobs have you had before your channel? Well, there's a lot to unpack there, but I will start unpacking it. So I am married, happily married of 7 years. I have 4 children. I have 2 cats, 2 dogs, 5 chickens. What am I missing here? We have a bearded dragon. I feel like I'm 2 guinea pigs, and I think that's about it. I lose track over time. I really do. It keeps expanding. What kind of music do you like to play on your guitar? Technical death metal, bro. Jazz, blues. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Do you have any other talents, hobbies, or special interests? I love graphic design. I love coding. I love analyzing information like data and stuff. I play video games sometimes, but I don't really have a lot of time for it. Mainly just music and working on YouTube is kind of like the big thing in family, of course. Movies and shows if I get time for it. What jobs have you had before your channel? Okay, so when I was, my very first job ever, I worked as a Kohl's sales associate for a seasonal position. And then I had a stint where I was working as a laptop technician. And I say that very loosely. I was hired by a friend of my father's to work and repair on laptops for a while. I was self-employed for a while. I worked as a sales manager at this other job. I've worked at a retail shop for a year, also managed the same shop. And then eventually YouTube became my full-time gig. So yeah, there's that. Wolf332 or 333221 asks, of all the stories and encounters you've heard and been sent, which ones do you actually believe in, if any? You know, I don't want to discredit everybody's encounter because I've had a few bizarre experiences of my own. I try to keep an open mind, and so, you know, if I get sent stuff, you know, my big thing has always been take things with a grain of salt, and I do try to adhere to that as much as possible because, you know, there are people that do, you know, lie about this stuff, but I would like to try and at least keep an open mind about it. Unfortunately, you know, this is a topic where majority of people, like 99.9% of people, don't have any evidence, and it's just all anecdotal stories. So you really just have to take people's word for it. And so, you know what, I try to stay pretty neutral about it and just keep an open mind that, hey, it's possible. Now, to answer the question specifically, there is one man, and it's probably because I got to talk to him face to face, and I feel like that definitely had a lot bigger impact. Could he be lying? Absolutely. Right? There's always that possibility. Obviously, my dad, I believe his story because it's never changed growing up, and I've stated that in the video. But I will say the one person who really had an impact is Joe Barger. And if you don't know who that is, I did a video about him back in September. He was the truck driver up in the Manistee National Forest who was almost eaten and attacked by what he believes were 2 dogmen. He shot it in the face. It died. He was later accosted and kidnapped by government agents, claiming he killed one of their assets. You know, the main reason why I believe him is because he didn't just write in an email to me. Like, we were at I was at the Dogman conference, and me and Tony Merkel were kind of sitting at the same table. We're just talking it up and hitting it off. And I think Joe Barger was standing probably about 3 feet away from me, and he kind of was just eavesdropping politely. And we were talking about Dogman. And I don't exactly remember what we were talking about, but he's like, yeah, I shot one. And we both look at each other, Tony and I, and we look at him and we're like, dude, sit down and like tell us your story. And so he's like, all right. So he just sits down and looks at us plain face and just tells us the exact same story that you heard in the interview. He wasn't stuttering. He wasn't scared. He was like, hey, here's what happened. And, you know, we were asking him question after question after question, you know, could he be lying? Sure. But, you know, it seemed his reaction as he's recalling the experience in the event, and he didn't really seem like he really wanted to relive it. So it was just interesting, you know. It was really interesting. I feel like I would believe what he had to say. You know, people might laugh at me, but oh well. Listen, in my 33 years of existence, I've learned that truth is stranger than fiction. Guys, we are living in the X-Files. We are literally in the X-Files. So with that mentality, I try to keep the realm of all sorts of possibilities open and like really kind of break out of the matrix of what we're grown up and indoctrinated into, right? Everything we know and live in the system. So that's my take on it. If given the chance, would you go with anyone that is actively searching for cryptids such as Bigfoot, Dogman, or Wendigos? I don't know. It really depends. I mean, for like in terms of like the show What Lurks Beneath, probably not, just because of logistics of like, you know, expenses of like traveling, and just it's not just as simple as like going out in the woods, you know. it's complicated. I would say if the conditions were right, maybe, but I don't know. Gary771, have you ever experienced anything paranormal or supernatural? Yes, I have. In fact, I will actually talk about that in a later video I'll probably make on it. I saw something that was odd in the sky, which I'm not going to say it was a UFO, but it did not behave in the realm of the physics that we know that exist around us. And then I had what I believe to be a paranormal or supernatural experience at my parents' old place. I don't know how else to describe it, but it was definitely weird. Critter Mama asks, I've been thinking about Antarctica lately. I've heard it could be Atlantis, that there's a hidden city with great abs. I think she means great labs vegetation under the ice, or that there are secret alien bases. Do you have an opinion? You know, I don't really have much of an answer for that because I'm not really that educated on Antarctica or Atlantis or, you know, the supposed theory that Nazis retreated there. It's really interesting. You know, again, I'm going to go back to what David Icke said famously, and help me if I'm wrong here, but I'm pretty sure it was David Icke where he said everything we've ever been taught or told is a lie, you know? So who knows? Who really knows? Yeah, that's my opinion on it. Crimson Fire asks, hi there. Are you going to be branching out into different types of stories? Will you still do some of the older style stuff from time to time? How many channels do you have? And would you ever consider doing stories to fall asleep to because you have a great narration voice? Thanks. Without background sounds can be really helpful. Okay, so I guess I would want to ask you, what do you mean by different types of stories? Are we talking about like ghost stories? Are we talking about like, I guess I'd want to ask you, what do you mean by that? I'm assuming she's referring to the older style stuff. And so, yes, so that is actually what Secrets of the Woods and What Lurks Above is going to do. It's going to fit this umbrella, and it's going to kind of fit this stuff. So if you're looking for that old style stuff we can fall asleep to, you just want to hear my voice narrate, you don't want to see me do all my stupid karate Italian hand movements and my obnoxious bearded face, that is the channel for you. Or those are the channels for you. I would also like to add to that and say that Secrets of the Woods, I'm going to try and keep those around 20 to 30 minutes per episode. What Lurks Above is going to be about an hour to 2 hours per episode, give or take. Now, those aren't hard rules. Those are just, you know, the goals. Jeff Hartwick 6612 asks, what's your favorite topic of all? I admit that Bigfoot and wolf topics are my two ties for my favorites. Anything to do with cryptids. I've always found like monsters and cryptids so interesting to me, far more than aliens or like UFOs or anything else, like, you know, like ancient mysteries. So I would say probably anything to do with cryptids of any kind is really going to be up my alley. Specifically, I like Dogman a lot, but I don't know if that's like the final nail in the coffin, you know, like that is my favorite topic. I enjoy all of it, so we'll say that. Mega Skyline 69, are we going to hear from the legend that is Papa Lurks again? You know what's funny is ever since the episode with my father, we've been trying to do something, and when I say we, I mean me, help him set up a YouTube channel to do something. He was going to do what old What Lurks Beneath did, where he was like narrating stories, but he was like, you know, I don't know if I really want to do that, and so I think he's trying to aim to have a show like I have now where he talks about stuff, so we're trying to get him up and running in that process. So hopefully in the next month or 2 or 3, you will see him, you know, be a thing, since he has a great narration voice. Dangerous Days 2052, what do you think about the idea that UFOs are from a secret advanced inner-Earth civilization instead of outer space? Right. Well, you know, my belief is that they're interdimensional beings, so, you know, it's hard to say. I don't know. And if they are extra-dimensional, interdimensional beings, then they could come in and out of our time and space anytime you want. In fact, there's, I can't remember her name, but there's a lady I found recently on YouTube, genius woman. I think she's in the UK or Australia, and her whole thing is like mathematics and like, you know, explaining the second dimension, third dimension. Let me see if I can pull her up for you guys real quick. Here we go. I found her. This girl right here. Her name is Tibes, and she does an amazing job at explaining 2D, 3D, 4D. Now, why is this relevant? Well, I'll say this. I think she does a fantastic job of explaining how us 3D beings in a 3D world can fully interact, control, and manipulate a 2D world without, you know, assuming there was an actual 2D world with 2D people in it, how we could fully affect their world without them ever seeing us, without them ever knowing. For example, like in this particular short, she actually talks about how like we can actually, you know, take the gems out of this 2D person's thing, her safe, right, without them ever knowing. And it's just, the concept of it is so so fascinating because it really made me start thinking, well, if that's the case, then if we're talking about entities that live in the fourth dimension, they can do the same to us. They can interact, they can manipulate our space and time without us ever even knowing, right? So we're talking about angels and demons or spirits or whatever you want to refer to it as. It really kind of started pushing my thinking in that direction, and it was kind of like, whoa, like that's, I never like really thought of it that way. But even if you think about it in terms of, say, like a timeline, I'm talking about like a 2D world. So I guess for the reference, think of like Super Mario, right? The whole level is like this. So now if you're a 3D individual, you can touch, interact, and manipulate any part of that level, which I guess would be their timeline. And so if there is a 2D figure over here, you could be manipulating things over here at the end of their timeline without them ever knowing, or even manipulating them. So how that translates into 4D into 3D is that you can have four-dimensional entities doing the exact same thing to us. This is all just theory, of course. I don't have any proof, and I'm not saying this is proof. It's just, you know, something interesting to think about. And if what she's saying is true about how we can interact with 2D, then I don't see why, if there are entities and beings in the fourth dimension and above, why they could not do the same to ours. So there's a little bit of food for thought there for you. Anyway, it's just really fascinating. Again, I highly recommend you guys watch her stuff. It's really cool and fascinating. Her username is right here. It's Tibees, Tibbies, something like that. So yeah, there's that. All right, then we got this question from Marisol6560. Josh, would you take your family to a national park to do some hiking? Absolutely not. I know too many things. That really bugged me. Sean Boyce, 1663. I'm interested in the Sbarro backstory. That's not a question. What's the story about Sbarro? Is it evil or just a drug front? I have never seen anyone eat there. So I will say this is probably going to shock you all. I think Sbarro is good. I like Sbarro. In fact, I just ate them probably back in May when I was at the airport in Orlando, Florida. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I think they taste just fine. So the real joke here lies in the backstory from one of my writers, Josh Cutchin, who, by the way, if you guys don't know, is a famed paranormal author who has several books that are pretty successful. In fact, one of his books, I was told, is now a required reading for a college course. Good job, Josh. Good job, Josh. He was also on Ancient Aliens. Yeah, I'm flexing for you, Josh. if he's watching this, I love him. Anyway, yeah, so his whole thing is that he came up with this idea because he detests Sbarro. Apparently, at some point in his life, he had to eat them. He got really bad, like stomach problems or something. And he's like, we should just make this an ongoing thing. And I'm like, all right. And so it kind of just became a thing where he would just start to write in these little like jokes over the course of like time, and it just kind of became a thing, and it kind of took on a culture of its own where people started to do it. And then I started to interject funny little Sbarro blips and things, and it kind of got to the point where my dad actually pulled me aside. He's like, you need to be careful, because he's like, you know, you don't want to deal with like a lawsuit. And so I had made a friend with a lawyer about a year ago. She's actually a traffic lawyer in Texas, and I called her up and I was like, hey, this isn't slander, is it? And she's like, well, if you were a competing pizza chain, it would probably be a totally different ballgame. But because of you're doing what you're doing and you're not actually like slandering them, you know, anything that would result in lost profits or defamation, she's like, you're probably fine. But as time went on, I'm like, you know what though? All it just takes is one person to get like a cease and desist. So I'm like, you know what? I kind of just cut it, you know, just to, yeah. So as of right now, that joke is done for. I don't know if I really want to risk any legal obligations, even if there isn't any. It's just still a risk. So it had its time. It was fun. You know, if you ever find me in person, you know, I'll joke with you about it. But in terms of it ever being in a video again, probably not, just to stay on the safe side. Hey, I keep noticing all kinds of gear in your background, and I am a heavy metal 80s singer and was wondering if you guys needed one. Well, I don't have a band, so I'm gonna have to decline you on there, buddy. Great video. Enjoy listening. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I actually have quite a few pieces of gear. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, so if you're watching, I'll just kind of, you know, keep it going. So this guy right here, this is my rack unit. This guy right here is a Kemper Profiler, and basically what that is it's I want to say it's a guitar cab amp simulator, but it pretty much is just a very high version of it. And I have that running into this right here is a Neve 1073. It's a very, very famous Very great mic preamp. It gives color. I love the coloration and sound of this Neve. And that goes into my Burl. That is a Burl B2 Bomber. It is an A to D, or it's a ADC, which basically means that it's input, right? What this does, it takes the audio that you're hearing now and it converts it to ones and zeros so the computer can understand it. And then this is my Furman power conditioner. It basically just ensures that this is all safe. So if there was ever an outage where everything blew up, it gets routed to this. So, you know, yeah, again, this just protects everything. I might add more preamps to this over time, but you know, we'll see. I love the sound of this Neve, so that's what I kind of stick with for the time being. Back there, of course, I have a Mesa 412 cab, and I have two heads. I have an Angle Savage 60, which goes into it. I have a PV 6505 up there. I don't know if you can see it, that little white thing right where my finger is. That is a power converter, because the Angle head back there is actually like a European version. It's like 60 watts, so I have to plug it into that thing to convert the power. It's kind of complicated. And then that red thing right where my finger is, this guy right here, that is an Ibanez tube screamer. And so that kind of gives the amp a little bit of boost. Over here to my left where my hand is, not this guy. This is my time machine. Right over there, that's my back line of guitars. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different guitars. I may showcase another video. I have an acoustic guitar outside this office. And I have a couple more heads. I have a Frankenstein head. I have an Angle, a Powerball, and I want to say that's it. So I've collected some gear over my years, but that's really about it. Maybe sometime I'll do more music and like show you guys more of that. So yeah, that's kind of a quick rundown of my gear. Does Shambhala, am I saying that right? Shambhala or Sheol or Agartha lurk beneath? I don't know what this is, but Sheol I believe is like hell, I assume, and Agartha is that city I just talked about in a recent short I did. I don't know. I'm gonna say I have no idea. I've never been to either, so I couldn't tell you. You can bring one person with you. Would you rather go fishing in the sea or another planet, or having a hunting trip in the forest on another planet? Probably having a hunting trip in the woods, because I just have no desire to go in the ocean, not after what I know is in there. Who would you bring? I don't know, man. My wife, maybe my editor, Peter. Who knows? Have you looked into the A71 incident in Scotland yet? I have not. I've never even heard of it. So it looks interesting. Maybe I will. Has your dad and uncle experiences affected your life at all? No. Fortunately not. However, my mom believes that what my dad did, and he lived his past, I shouldn't say past life, doesn't sound great. In what he did before he met my mother, he was into a lot of things he shouldn't have been, like black magic and things. And my mom believes that he had like a doppelganger attached to him or something. And so there's a couple times when I was in my early 20s, my ex-wife at the time and I both believed that we saw his doppelganger multiple times, which I'll get into that in a separate video. Yeah, but as far as like this actual question, I don't think so. What do you think about Dogman, natural predator, or made super soldier? I don't think it's natural. It's either created or Nephilim, right? I've heard it talked about as like an ancient species that has always been here. That's probably more so what it is. Now, is it possible the government has had their hand in making one? Dude, I don't know. I can only guess. I have no idea. Are you going full ZZ Top with your beard? Fun fact, I actually just trimmed it recently, and it's really hard to get my beard long and like look nice because I have this like funky cowlick right here. And so what happens is as it grows out, it kind of starts to like look wonky, and it just drives me crazy. So I'd love to. I've ever since I was 18, I always wanted like a really full Gandalf beard. So maybe at some point. Would you ever go and stay in a dive bell alone? Would the claustrophobia or loneliness get too rough? I don't really have claustrophobia, believe it or not. I'm a huge fan of spelunking and caving. In fact, a friend of mine and I a couple years back did Dead Horse, which is like one of the largest lava tube caves here in the Pacific Northwest. I absolutely love caving. I would do more of it if I could. But a dive bell? No, thanks. No, I'm assuming, I actually don't know what a dive bell is, but I have no desire to do it if it involves me being in the ocean. So yeah, I'll say that. Okay, I just looked it up and it's exactly what I thought it was. Yeah, no thanks. Nope. Question, what are the sources of these stories? Well, that's a good question. All around, actually. Sometimes I find them, sometimes they're on Reddit, sometimes they're in my emails, sometimes I find them on the internet, sometimes they're from notable people, sometimes they're from books, sometimes they're from interviews, sometimes they're from YouTube videos. It's all around, really. And that's why I made the comment all around the interwebs, because it's very true. The only one I've ever really actually had given to me in person is I want to say probably the Joe Barger one, and then of course my dad, but that's really about it. Dominic Lehman 406 asks, when are you going to shave? Do it for charity. If you fancy a reason, press 1 for shave. So a couple things. I'll probably never shave. And if I do, it's going to be a while because I need to lose weight just before I shave. And so the thing is, my wife really likes my beard. Her whole thing is that she says I look like Beans from the movie Holes when I shave my face. In my brutally honest opinion, I'm far too fat to have a clean shaven face. I don't like how chubby my face is, and a beard kind of helps mask that. So maybe when I get down to like a really good healthy weight, I may go back to having a jawline, which I used to have when I was like 19, 20, and it looked pretty good. Let me see if I can actually pull up a picture for you guys. So there you go, guys, digging up some old memories there. So this was a band that I had started back in 2009, and guess what the name was? Beneath the Earth. So some say Lurks Beneath kind of stemmed from that, but I don't think it did. It was just by chance. So this is our old drummer, and this was a good friend of mine at the time, and yeah. So that's me right there. I had really long hair. I had a jawline, beard going on, and yeah, I rocked that for a while. Eventually shaved my head, had different hairstyles, and now I kind of got the dad thing going. I had big old ear gauges at the time. Don't know if you guys ever noticed my holes. I had big old ear gauges too. I was probably 19 or 20 here. So I'm 33 now. So yeah, that's, yeah, there you go. So if I ever shave, it's going to be because, I've lost a good amount of weight and I actually look okay with a clean shaven face. Is the Secrets of the Woods YouTube channel one of your alternate? Yes. Again, I didn't connect it because I wanted to keep it on the down low and I wanted to grow it completely separately. But, as of now, I'm officially announcing that yes, it is my channel and I will connect the two. Do you believe in merfolk? I mean, I believe there's a possibility of them existing, but I can't, concretely say that they do exist or don't exist. And of course, the last question I will answer today is, who did you vote for? I wonder what you guys are expecting me to say, but you might be shocked by my answer. Here's my answer. No one. I don't vote. And the reason why is because I firmly believe the system is completely rigged and corrupt. And I believe that, and I wholeheartedly and genuinely believe that this whole two sides, Democrat, Republican, is just an illusion to make you think you actually have power of choice and that you actually think you're going to affect, the decision making one way or another. But it's all the same entity. It's all the same beast. Fun fact. Did you know the majority of companies in the world are owned by two private investment firms, BlackRock and Vanguard? They own everything. And I don't know if they own the parties, but I wouldn't be surprised. Look, all I'm trying to say is that I firmly believe that both parties have their hands in the same pie behind the scenes. So honestly, I stay out of politics. I don't really go for anyone or any person. People have asked me about Trump. People have asked me about Biden. I don't answer those questions because honestly, I don't care. I it's all corrupt to me. I don't buy it. So that's my opinion. Take it for what it is. Yeah. And I feel like this is a good spot to actually end the video on that. So with that said, let's bring it back around to the other things like the announcements. So keep a lookout for the big project coming. That should be here probably in the next couple months. Go ahead and subscribe to Secrets of the Woods and What Lurks Above if you're into the old school What Lurks Beneath. I believe it's really going to tickle your fancy. And yeah, if you're into true crime and missing persons thing and just like real legitimate documented cases that aren't paranormal or supernatural at all, then I feel like Unearthing Stories is going to be right for you. But as I said, it's very possible I'm going to rebrand the name, but I'll keep the channel, right? None of that's going to go away. So yeah, that's going to happen. So again, check that out. Subscribe to that if you want to. Don't forget about the book. If you're into encounters with cryptids and like, supernatural entities, this book's a pretty good read. I enjoy it. I spent a lot of time reading it during the editing phase, so I really don't want to look at it again. You can pick that up on Kindle or in paperback like this one. I will put the Amazon link down below. Get excited for the shirts. Get your tickets to the Dogman conference if you want to show up. And with all that said, I love you all. Keep it up in mind, and I'll see you guys in the very next episode.